welcome to another video. So today's going to be a fairly quick video looking at feature tracks and feature artists, because we've got two artists in the music video part of the specification that you may end up studying, but we're also going to take a quick look at some of the issues that are featured within the music industry, or that go on within the music industry, to give us not only a little bit of contextual knowledge on the music industry as a whole, but because these also coincidentally happen to involve the feature tracks and the feature artists themselves. Before we get going any further, just a quick note that if you hear any snoring sounds going on in this video, it's because I'm currently babysitting my dog. It's just us two at home at the moment, and he's decided that he's going to be as loud as possible while he's snoozing sort of down beside me. So if you hear any noises like that, please just ignore them. I have tried recording this video like 3 times already, and he's disrupting every single attempt for me to record this. So we're just going to persevere and hope that he keeps the noise down a little. So getting into the video then, basically, and I imagine you guys know this anyway, a feature track is a track that has 2 different artists working on it. Now, usually there is a lead artist and a feature artist. A feature artist is a secondary artist who collaborates on a track with somebody else. Now, this acts as a kind of celebrity endorsement or synergy, where both artists get something out of this collaboration, get something out of working together. Now, we have 2 artists on the specification who are involved in feature tracks, Taylor Swift and Bruno Mars. So starting off with Taylor Swift then, she has 2 different editions of Bad Blood. She has the one that is included on the album, or the album edit, and then she has the one that was released into the sort of mainstream media, which was the radio edit. On the album version, it's just Taylor Swift who performs on the track, so she has different verses, a slightly different beat and overall feel to the song itself, and it's quite different to the one that we get with Kendrick Lamar. Now, obviously on the radio edit, she did collaborate with Kendrick Lamar, which then meant that her original verses from the album edit weren't included, and that she had these sections where Kendrick Lamar sort of took over and rapped, and he didn't use her original lyrics or anything like that. Now, this was quite an interesting collaboration because it allowed her to fit into multiple genres and appeal to a much wider audience. So she not only managed to fit into the pop genre, which is obviously what we would expect of Taylor Swift, but because of that collaboration with Kendrick Lamar, it sort of edged her into both the R&B and maybe even the rap genres. So she then started appealing to a wider audience of people who perhaps wouldn't necessarily pick up her music and listen to it out of their own choice. Bruno Mars, on the other hand, for Uptown Funk, is something that continually interests me. When you look at our specification, if you ever look at our specification, you'll see that this track is listed as Bruno Mars Uptown Funk, and it does appear on the Unorthodox Jukebox album by Bruno Mars. However, he is the featured artist on this track. So the main artist, the person who we should be saying or should be giving the credit to here, is Mark Ronson, because it's his track featuring Bruno Mars. So kind of interesting that this is the way that it's sort of marketed and the way that it is shown towards people, but it does make sense when you consider that Ronson appears to be somebody who is more comfortable taking a back seat and being a sort of producer or DJ on the tracks. When you look at his previous discography, this is something that he seems to do regularly. Also, the fact that both the name, the style, the sound of the song itself fits in more closely with Bruno Mars's roots and upbringing makes it something that is more sensical, I guess, to refer to as Bruno Mars's track. It's just interesting that that's the way it's marketed when really Bruno Mars is the feature artist. So some things for us to consider here with our feature tracks, okay, and to think about when we're talking about these tracks or when we're breaking them down and we're looking at the decisions that have been made, because the decisions that have been made will be affected in part by the fact that this is a feature track. So that might be something for us to consider in our wider analysis. Moving on now then to music issues. As I said, it's kind of interesting that the issues that crop up within the music industry that we can talk about in our exam also revolve around the two feature artists or feature tracks that we've got to study. Taylor Swift seemingly seems to be involved in a number of different music issues or issues within the industry, so I'm not entirely sure what that says about her as an artist. I am making no sweeping statements or insinuating anything there, but it is kind of interesting that we've got a lot that we can talk about with her as an artist contextually as well as the track itself. So the big issue that is surrounding Taylor Swift at the moment, it has died down quite a bit, but the most recent issue with Taylor Swift is who should own the rights to music that musicians have. So regardless of how we feel about Taylor Swift, one of the things that we do have to sort of praise her for is the fact that she writes a lot of the songs for her albums. She not only writes a lot of the lyrics, obviously in conjunction with other people, but she not only writes a lot of the lyrics herself, but she also has a large hand in producing her own music, which has been the case since she started in the industry, but obviously has developed for her to take on bigger and bigger roles within her own music as she's progressed through the industry and sort of grown within the industry. Now, basically, the issue here is that Swift was part of Big Machine Records and had been part of Big Machine Records, the record label, for the majority of her time in the music industry, since she started in the industry. She has been trying to buy back the master copies of her albums for some time now. And again, I still don't quite understand myself, and I still can't really find any information myself on why it would be the case that Taylor Swift doesn't own her own records and doesn't own her own masters. But it seems to be that this is sort of an industry thing, that musicians, when they sign up to a record label, when they sign a contract, within that contract is this sort of idea that the record company are the people that will own the album, not the artists themselves. Regardless of how much work they do on it themselves, the record company is the one who owns the album. So Taylor Swift's masters, Taylor Swift's records, all of her albums, the copyright and everything for that has been owned by Big Machine Records. And this isn't just for one or two albums, this is for the majority of the albums that she has produced. When she found out that Big Machine Records were getting taken over by Ithaca, who is owned by Scooter Braun, she posted a message saying that this was sort of her worst nightmare. I would imagine not only because it would then make it more difficult for her to own her masters, but also because Scooter Braun represents Kanye West, which is an issue we will be coming on to in just a second. She has since been battling to try and get back her master copies of her albums, but to no avail. She cannot buy back the master copies of her albums. And so she is now left in a situation where she's moved record labels, she's moved over to Universal, and within, I think it's 2021 or 2022, from that point on, she can and is planning to re-record all of her old albums and then own the masters to those albums, which is very, very canny from a marketing point of view. Again, going back to Taylor Swift's marketing, which you guys know is a favourite topic of mine. If she re-records all of these albums and markets them again, then it's effectively like releasing a new album, which means that all of the fans who currently own all of those original albums are going to end up buying a second copy of all of those albums under Universal, so that they're supporting that purchase rather than Scooter Braun and Ithaca and Big Machine Records. So it's very, very canny. But we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. Interesting issue though, who should own the rights to the music? If somebody like Taylor Swift has written the music, taken a part in producing it, who should own it? So let me know in the comments section below. Taylor Swift is also involved with infighting in the industry with several different people. So she has a massive feud with Kanye West, which stems all the way back to when Kanye West stole her thunder, receiving an award, and basically stormed on stage, snatched it out of her hand and said that it should have gone to Beyonce. So the fighting within the industry in terms of Kanye West has been going on for years and years and years. But linking to Bad Blood is this idea that it is based on an argument between her and Katy Perry, where Katy Perry supposedly snatched several of Swift's backup dancers for a tour at the last minute. So I suppose the secondary issue is that within the industry there is a lot of infighting, and Taylor Swift has made money off of these feuds that she has with celebrities. Longer ago than all of this, though, was Taylor Swift fighting for fair pay. So you can now get all of Taylor Swift's albums and songs on Spotify, but that hasn't always been the case. When Spotify first, or when it was very, very new and when it had started up only very recently, Taylor Swift took all of her music off Spotify, arguing that the money that they received from Spotify, or the fact that people could stream the music for free, meant that artists such as herself were not getting paid for those songs, and it was then diminishing the value of the art that they had created. So another interesting point to consider: how much should artists be paid? Should they be paid? And how do we monitor what is in the public use for free and is considered art? Interesting things to consider. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section below. Bruno Mars, on the other hand, relatively few issues. He has had a few issues within his sort of personal life, things that he's done that perhaps haven't added to his reputation in a positive way. But in terms of the music industry, Bruno Mars and Mark Ronson were involved in a copyright issue over Uptown Funk. And you can find information on this really easily and read through the story and basically what happened just by typing Bruno Mars copyright into Google. Basically, the idea was that they had taken the overall sound of a song and edited it so very slightly that it really was copyright for Uptown Funk. Now, I believe that they settled this, which means that basically they paid a lot of money to the original artist to not have to go to court with it, which suggests that perhaps this is the case. You guys again can make your own mind up and let me know in the comments section below. So only a couple of key terms in today's video, and I hope that you found it useful, even though the second half was more a discussion rather than giving you specific points to comment on in your exams. I just think it's useful to have as contextual information, and is interesting that it links with our featured artists. If you haven't already, do please subscribe, hit the button below. If I get to 1,000 subscribers, I can use the community tab to keep in touch with you all, which you have said would be the best. So I really need you guys to share this channel with other people who are in your classes, get them to subscribe, or people who you know might be interested in media and in taking media later on, get them to subscribe so that we can get to that community tab much, much quicker. Also, if you have any questions, comments, ideas, suggestions, or want to let me know your thoughts on those different issues within the industry, pop them in the comments section below, or get in touch with me through Twitter at media_revision and Instagram GCSE Media Revision. I read through every comment and I do respond to every comment in some way, shape or form. So do please comment down below, and I will see you guys later for another video.